So here I have the logs for the kill. The kill happened this week, actually last week on Thursday, and I've taken a look at these logs for like the past days a couple times. I had a very good review made by a good member. I was actually able to think about some things and what can be improved. So I want to actually spend more time looking into it. Actually, I'm not sure if we'll ever fight this puzzle mythic again, because now we're progressing on Sylvanas, but it's something that can be used to improve the performance even on Sylvanas fight. So the first thing we can do is actually see the character isolated in itself. There are some things that have to be taken into account for a fight like Kel'thuzad, which is this fight is quite different now in 9.1, because when the fight was released on 9.1, you had a lot of waiting for the fight, especially because of one of the main mechanics on Mythic compared to Heroic. The ability is called Glacial Wrath, and he summons glacial spikes, which is the swirls on the floor. On Heroic, normally, just they made sure that like one spike died after, because the frozen destruction was not the biggest issue, because there's an explosion first and a debuff that stacks. What most guilds did on Heroic was explode like two or three, and then leave one to explode later, so they could like heal and use CDs for the explosions, and the dot itself was not very hard. But on Mythic, the problem is the damage is much higher, and this debuff is a truck. It's very punishing. So the strategy is simple. On the first phase of the boss, he starts with one stack of his empowerment already. Necrotic empowerment. On Mythic, he starts with necrotic empowerment. So he actually does more spikes, even on phase 1. So on Mythic, this strategy is simple. You leave the spikes to explode all together on phase 1 on top of the boss. And for the remaining phases, you try to stagger one. So one you kill next to the boss, and you move all the others all the way away from the boss, so they will explode on its own. The thing is, you had a lot of waiting on this fight on Mythic, because on phase 1, all the glacial spikes are exploded together. So every single healer pops all the healing cities. So you have slings, bubbles, AMZs, everything, so the damage is mitigated. And the healers can deal with this debuff, which is frozen destruction, with more safety. The problem is, if you damage the boss, send all your damage very quickly, go into the phylactery. When you come back, you have the second set of spikes exploding before the healing CDs are back. So the strategy for Mythic was bringing the boss to below 5% health, because when Kel'Thuzad has less than 5% health, he stops using his main ability Soul Fracture, which is spawning tank as it has to be interrupted, and he stops summoning Oblivion Echo, which are the big circles that spawn Frostbone Devoted, which are the fixating Walking Dead ads. So now when the boss goes to 5% health, he will still cast his abilities, but what Blizzard did to prevent guilds from waiting was buff considerably. Howling Blizzard is the ability that does the Frost Path on the floor, and then Kel'Thuzad does when he's out of mana. It's a lot of damage. Like we tried to do this on Mythic, but like after 10, 20 attempts, we saw that it was unhealable. So this fight has this. It's like there's a lot of waiting. So some classes that are like uptime reliant, they are very punished for this fight. There's another factor that also impacts the damage on the fight, which is your role in the fight. There's the intermission, which actually is kind of tricky because you cannot kill the ads upstairs quick enough, because they will respawn and they do 100% more damage when they do. And you cannot kill them too slowly, because if the boss comes back after the remnant is killed in the phylactery, they also have 100% damage increase. It's very risky. So damage has to be controlled. So it's a very controlled fight, so to speak. So this has to be taken into account. So what I will do is I will look for the best parses on Kel'thuzad for Ret Paladin, but I try to take this into account. Parses that were after 915 and parses that have similar conditions to mine. What conditions? Item level first, of course, uh, but also trinkets, which for Ret Paladins, I think for any class, they change much. Not only throughput, but they change some even the way you play the game. Uh, so I'll choose the best parses, also taking into account the role the Ret Paladins had. Because, for example, if you see the number one here in the world, which is this Chinese player, for my level, I can almost bet that he stayed upstairs all the time. So he had more uptime, not only for the movement there has in the phylactery, which is nasty, and also the one-shot mechanics that pretty much everything there one-shots, and you have more mechanics than heroic, but also the number of targets you have when you stay upstairs, which is 2 abominations and 3 banshees. And like for this one, for example, that had 13k DPS, he, from his talents in itself, I can tell he was staying upstairs, and we can see if we watch his log. We'll also take into account the duration of the fight to compare, because, and also if things like Wind Fury Totem, let me see. We can see his damage sources and see if he actually this is in Chinese, but I remember the icons, so we can see how much damage went to the I don't know how to read Chinese, but this icon here stands from the remnant of Kel'thuzad, which is the shade in the phylactery. I can even go into my log and show you guys, because I was going to the phylactery. We can see on my log here, let me go to general, we can see uh, that the remnant of Kel'Thuzad, which is the remnant, is the enemy inside the phylactery. Remnant of Kel'Thuzad is the shade of his past that's inside the phylactery, which causes foul winds. That's why this icon here, foul winds, is used on Warcraft logs to talk about the remnant. I was the one going inside. I went on the first and second and third down phase. So this paladin here that has the best log for the fight, but he's not present. Here is the healer that went into the phylactery, but he did not go. So we cannot compare my damage with his, because the number of targets he had was much bigger. What we could do is we'll go to his log and compare with Kel'Thuzad. So we'll go to damage done, and you choose only Kel'Thuzad and see how much damage he did. Yeah, going into Chinese is kind of tricky because we have to rely on things that we cannot read. Let me compare with here in my log. Where's my log? I did 3,000,087 damage, and if I choose Kel'Thuzad, yes, I did 1.85 million damage on Kel'Thuzad. So if I go to the best parse in the world for Kel'Thuzad Mythic with my eye level, which is this Chinese here, uh, and I choose the enemies and Kel'Thuzad, he did 1.86 million damage to Kel'Thuzad, and I did 1.85 million. So I did 10k less damage to Kel'Thuzad than the best parse in the world did to Kel'Thuzad. So 10k is what? A judgment? So if I had one more global, I would have the same damage as the best parse in the world for the boss. Because I think this is misleading. He is not the best parse in the world for Ret Paladin on boss because he's doing almost as much as I did, and I had a lot of problems in the fight, which we'll see here in this analysis. So my point is, I have to compare with someone that did the same thing I did in the fight. Otherwise, it will be misleading because this person here did 1 million to Kel'Thuzad, but for the ads, he did uh, he did 4 million more or less to the ads and 1 million and 60 to Kel'Thuzad. So we have to find the best parts for Ret Paladin that fills into this all the criteria we will see here. So the first has to be fighting level. Oh, 915, nice. So I have to go only for 915, which is after the nerf and the changes for the fight. My eye level. Uh, my Covenant, I think, yeah, just for Kyrians. And just for Kyrians with Pelagos. I think that makes the comparison more accurate. So I'll just pick a Ret Paladin here. I think maybe I'll choose an A because I cannot read Chinese. Let's just go for US and EU. Mythic for sure. It's Mythic Kel'Thuzad. Okay, so let me see. Frathak. Frathak had a 7 minutes and 31 seconds fight. Let me go for someone with a timer closer to mine, which is 6 and 50. There is this Argatas here, which seems like a good candidate, but they have very different trinkets from me. Not sure if I will go. I kind of want to compare with someone using the power crystal, like this one here. Maybe as I go for this. I know that the Old War so is a very strong trinket, but the Fire of Putrefaction is a very strong trinket too. It's not as strong as Old Warrior Soul, which is much better than. But my 250 to Fire might not seem very much lower than a 246 Old Warrior Soul. So I think at 6 and 30 seconds fight here is a good comparison with me. So I take this guy here to compare with me and see how I could improve. Let me take someone else. Let me take someone with the 5 in Old Warrior Soul maybe. And let me take someone with the best trinkets. Let me see if I can take here. Yes, but this one has a much more time in the fight. Let me go for this person here, Oxatin. He has good trinkets. He has more or less the same talents. So let's pick these 3 paladins here to compare with me. But first we have to see what's their what's their role in the fight. Let me see if they went to the phylactery or not. So Blazer, he had where's his enemies? Vestige. No, he didn't. This one, boom, no phylactery. Cannot compare. Let me see. This paladin here is a Derivan, and let me see if he went to the phylactery. No, that's why they have such high parses, because they stay up. Let me see this one here. Oxatin, please. Please, you have to be the one. Remnant of Kel'Thuzad. Summary, damage done. I cannot see very... Oh, okay. Hold on, I think I'm doing it wrong. I have to click damage done here. All enemies, Remnant of Kel'Thuzad. Yes, yes, nice. So here we have the perfect comparison. We have someone that went into the phylactery and that parsed higher than me. So he's the target for the perfect parse because he is on the English. He's not English, but his logs in French. But he's the one we can read because we cannot read Chinese. That had the most damage on Mythic Kel'Thuzad on this patch. So this is the guy that will be a very good comparison for what I can improve and what I can do differently. So let's go to his logs here and let's start. So first, we can start just with a simple review and see how many abilities he. Actually, let's see a summary first and see his talents, his legendaries, his all his things, and see what we differ and what we could be improved. So okay, clicking on Lightfall and clicking on Oak Satin. Okay, here's a Pelagos, right? Uh, he has more or less the same stats as I am. He has 1600 strength. I also have 1600 crit, 680. I have only 200. This is a big difference. Let me see where all his stats at. Haste 714, and I have 798. So he is at the 22% haste soft cap for having another finisher inside execution sentence. I am a little bit above it. I am at 24-ish, 25% haste. Uh, uh, Haste has a soft cap because it has diminishing returns, but that doesn't mean that haste above 22 is useless for red. It's less valuable, so to speak. I have 700 mastery and he has 740. Okay, we're pretty much even here. And I have more verse, 398, and he has 258 verse, and I have 398. He's great that he has more than me. He has 129 speed. I have 140, so we are pretty much similar. We're using pretty much, I think, the same. I think he's using one that reduces the time on the file instead of the one that gives enchantment mats here. We both have Templar Vindication, which is a strong, Ring of Clarity, which is like the base for Pelagos. Golden Path. He doesn't choose Golden Path, which makes him heal on Consecration. He chooses other small things. Yes, he's using the one that reduces the file. This doesn't affect much on damage, but this is better for survivability maybe, because his file will be back closer. So this is something that I can have in mind for next fight, changing this, using the same as his, because this will help me live if I have a shorter CD on file. He's using condensed atmosphere, which is very interesting because this is a potency. Whenever you take damage, you heal for 250 of maximum health. Oh no, this is a defensive. It's the first roll, I forgot. Potencies, finesse, and the first base, which is endurance. He's using this one instead of golden path, which is, yes, something I can have in mind and test as well. This is more tricky to test because I'll not see much of the healing. Maybe I'll have to watch the logs and see how much healing he had. Let me see here the healing logs and see how much healing he had for condensed atmosphere. 34k healing. Oh, that is huge. Let me see mine. I think I have almost no healing with Golden Path simply because I cast Consecration, because I remember this only 3 times in the encounter, and it's something that the log review emphasized for me to improve. So this is something we'll discuss soon. I only cast 3 times Consecration, so obviously my healing with this conduit was 9k. Well, casting 3 consecrations made me heal 4 times more or less than him with his condensed atmosphere. But the thing is, 3 times is very, very low usage of consecration. I should have used it more. So if I had used consecration 10 times, for example, in a 7-minute fight, I would have out healed him. So this is something to have in mind using this conduit here. But from the numbers in itself, it seems that using just a little bit more of consecration, which is something that offensively important for Ret Paladin, will make me heal more than choosing this conduit. But we have to test. Something that we have to have in mind. Maybe tomorrow on Sylvanas I choose this animal power here, and then I have to compare with Wednesday when I don't use it to see how much healing I had. So this is something interesting to have in mind if you can have like some sort of note here. Let me fix it to float on top. And notes for Sylvanas Prague. 1. So this will have to be between uh, 2 raid nights, because I cannot hard out of the raid and change conduits just to test this. The raid leader will kill me. So this is the first thing to have in mind here. Bond of friendship. Bond of friendship. Actually, this will not even. This is something that I will change. I will not even test. This feels better having the reduced CD on file than having enchant mats. Like, it's a no-brainer. I don't even know why I was using this. And I'm using shielding words. He's using shielding words, Virtus Command. I'm using Virtus Command. Lights Barden. He's using Lights Barden. High movement fight, so that makes sense. And okay, our conduits are pretty much the same here. Talents. Here is one difference that uh, the person that reviewed my log also emphasizes this, and this is something I want to discuss. I choose a talent that is worse, that is not optimal, and this is something that uh, I've received this negative feedback, and there's a reason for this. Actually, I think I can even say now. We can go on this. The thing is, when the fight starts, we are with Kel'thuzad, and here the mission is simple. We damage the boss. He's the quickest we can, and kick the tank ads. So here the team is assigned to kick the tank ads. I am kicking this one here with my friend Engel and Border. So the team changes, and the other half of the team runs to the entrance to drop all the circles here, because the ads will come from the same place, and then we clip them down. Here is the glacial spikes they spawn, and then you have to clip them very quickly. So what happens is, after they explode and everyone has the debuff, the healers pop their slings, other things, and more tank heads come and you keep kicking. This is the rinse and repeat of this fight. And then the tank says stop DPS, and then we FK. So the thing is, when we are able to kill the boss, because the tank says kill the boss, and we kill, which is more or less in 10 seconds. It's now 1 in 10, 1 in 15. He said kill the boss. Then we kill the boss, Kel'Thuzad dies. The team that goes in the Phylactery goes into position, and then we are here. Here's me. And then we fight the remnant here inside. The thing is, when we're killing the remnant here and dodging all the abilities, the team is upstairs dealing with the 2 abominations and also sending a kick rotation on the benches. We have 3 benches here and 2 abominations. The thing is, we cannot kill the remnant faster than the team upstairs kill the ads, because if they kill the ads 10 seconds before the remnant's dead, that means the ads will respawn and wipe everyone. And at the same time, we have a timer. If you don't kill the remnant in 40 seconds, I think, or 35, it explodes and wipes the raid. You see? With Undying Wrath. So we killed the remnant, we came back before Undying Wrath went, and Kel'Thuzad is back. So no one is dead. So we killed actually before the timer. You see, we killed the remnant, which is 66% of health, or 63, I think. We killed it. How many seconds before? 10, maybe 8 seconds, because you see the cast here. When this cast ends is when the raid wipes, and the raid wipes if the remnant's alive, and he was dead. So we were fast, but actually the team upstairs was fast again. So we repeat. So what happens is, we have a team of 5 people in the Phylactery. You see? Avenged, which is me, the Paladin, Steel Rose, Angel, Chloe, the healer, and BM Hunter. So what happens is, we have these 6 players here. fighting this ad. We have to adjust our damage so that we don't kill fast enough. So like we had like 40, 50 wipes. Maybe, yes, I think 50 wipes happened because of this. Of the remnant dying too quick or not dying and exploding and wiping the raid. So I had to switch my talents all the time to figure out how could I do damage, but at the same time, not do low damage and not do too high damage. So it was like a test and repeat thing. Attack the remnant, uh, uh, not fast enough or not slow enough. So I had to switch and go back and forth talents. So this talent here I chose is actually worse than the other option. But I chose this on purpose because my first thought was I will go in the Phylactery and I'll save all my CDs. When I go inside, I will pop wings, pop all my 3 1 minutes, and I will nuke the remnant. Because then the team upstairs will kill the ads and we will survive and we'll be happy forever. But that was not the case. When I popped wings and blew everything on the remnant, he died like 20 seconds before he had to die. So all the ads were alive upstairs, and everyone started to die, get one shot. Because on the first like 20 attempts, we were dying in the Phylactery, so I could not judge how the damage actually was. Because if someone dies, obviously you have less damage. So once we came to a point that no one was dying in the Phylactery, then I was able to measure damage. Okay, what can I do less? What can I do more? And I saw that I had to remove wings from the Phylactery. So I popped wings with all the CDs upstairs, and when I went down, I had all the 3 1 minutes back, but not wings, because that's what I needed. But I was still doing more damage than I did with the Blade of Wrath. So I said, what if I remove Blade of Wrath, which is a pure single target talent, and instead choose Imperium Power, which is an AoE one. I will do less damage to the Remnant, so it will die a little bit slower. So then it will die exactly when we need it to die. And that was the case. We consistently started killing the Remnant on the right time, and the wipes, because of the Phylactery, were almost reduced to 0 at the end of progression. But now that I think of it, this paladin that reviewed my logs said that this talent was not optimal, and he was right. I have a very good reason to have chosen this talent, but now I see that this reason was not enough, because this is like a fallacy. I chose the worst talent because I needed to do less damage, but I could have talked to the raid lead and talked to the team that went to the Phylactery and figure out how we could do less damage without picking a weaker talent. So this is something to have in mind for Sylvanas as well. Because Blade of Wrath is way better than Imperium Power for boss damage. Because Imperial Power is a cleave talent. Usually the best logs you see for Kel'thuzad Mythic, the Ret Paladins choose Imperial Power if they are staying upstairs, because they need to cleave. So this is something that I will also have to have in mind for Sylvanas. He used Blinding Light, and I chose Fist of Justice. And here I will have to... here's a tricky thing, because both are good, and I think it's situational, because my perception was we were assigned here to the tanky ads, as I shown in the replay. The tank ads spawn always 5 on the first phase, and then each down phase the boss is empowered and he spawn more tank ads, more glacial spikes. So we have to kick. So we have to have like all the raid assigned for kicking. We had to have a very strict kick rotation. Players assigned to kick the ads, and the ads were here. We used a weak aura to kick very carefully, because every single kick had to go through. I'm here marked as Lightfall in this spreadsheet because I transferred my character and changed the name. Because after he spawns the tank ads, the first set of tank ads, where is it? 10 seconds on fight, 8 seconds on fight, 4 seconds on 5. You cast tank ads, Ice Shard, and tank ads. Soul Fracture. Boom. Tank ads appear. Pause. A fraction of a second after he spawned the tank ads, Kel'Thuzad casts Oblivion Echo, which is a circle and he chooses the players. You see, he chose here uh, Coral, Coral, Death. He chose Warrior. He chose Quick. He chose Steel Rolls, and he chose, yeah. These are the players he chose. So, but Korra was assigned to kick. So Korra, what Korra has to do is Korra has two options. First, he can say he has a kick friend. So you saw in the spreadsheet you had two players kicking. So he can say, hey, imagine if his partner was Victor. He has to say, hey Victor, kick for me because I have Oblivion Echo. Because when you have the Oblivion Echo, we all have to run to this spot here and drop on Skull. Because if you drop the circles and they stack on Skull, all the Walking Dead ads will spawn in this area and they will be able to be by the boss, controlled with stuns and CCs in order to cleave classes and funnel classes, pad on these heads to throw more damage on the boss. So what happens is I decide to choose Fist of Justice, which reduces my time of Hodge for every time I finish with the finisher, because there's so much going on Discord. So it's hectic if you have like 20 people in a raid and 5 start to talk at the same time. Hey, kick for me because I have Oblivion Echo. This would be a nightmare because we have the raid leader doing the callouts, and then we cannot have 5 players telling their partners they have to kick. The partners would have to have some sort of quick aura or quick eyes to be looking at Kel'Thuzad and see who he chose for the Oblivion Echo, and if the player he chose is the partner, the player has to know that he has to kick instead of the partner. But this would bring a complexity for the fight that, in my opinion, is not necessary. So what I chose in my head is, what I thought in my head is, if I am chosen by Kel'Thuzad to poop the circle here, and I am the number 1 for kicking, I will just hodge instead of kick. Because the hodge will CC the tank ad for 5 seconds. So 5 seconds is enough time for me to run from the point A to point B, poop, and come back with my horse. So that's why I choose Fist of Justice. But not only, because we had a monk and a bunch of hunters in the team and shamans, so the ads were controlled like masterfully. We had like Ring of Peace when the ads were very close. We had Incaptoting. We had Biting Shot. We had Mage slowing them. We had so much CC for the ads that I was even scared of DRing the ads with stun because we had Incap like Sweep already going off on the ads. So I was kind of scared to DR the ads. So I decided to take Fist of Justice to hodge my Soul Shard. It's debatable because Blinding Light is actually very good, and you can even argue that Blinding Light would not DR the ads because I'm not sure if there's any disorient going on the ads at all. There's just stuns, slows, uh, and you can blind also your tank ad here. So I'm not sure what to think of it. Something that I can put on the notes too. For Sylvanas, I'm not sure. I have to consider versus Feast of Justice. The other difference here is actually we are both using Cavalier because it's a heavy movement fight. We are both using Seraphine because it's so strong. I'm using Selfless Healer and he's using Healing Hands, which is one of the negative feedbacks I received from my log review, and something that I will have to consider because just take a look here. Healing Hands empower my Word of Glory and reduces my CD on Lay on Hands, while uh, Selfless Healer makes my Flash of Light heal more and be instant after 4 finishers. And the thing is, my reasoning was I was not using much Word of Glories in the fight. If you see here on my casts, let's compare the casts of this Paladin and mine. I had 1 Lay on Hands. Let me see if he had Lay on Hands too. No, he never used lay on hands, so more or less one of the benefits of his talent was not met, which is reducing the CD on lay on hands. In Word of Glory, I had 5, and you'll go to see when this gold Word of Glories came in a second. And Word of Glory, he had. Where's the Word of Glory here? Oh wow! He never cast a healing. Well, now I understand why he had more damage than him, his globals. Okay, he never cast a Flash of Light and a Word of Glory. And I cast Flash of Light uh, 9 times. So let's see where my healing went. Let's see with Flash of Light first. So here we see 9 casts of Flash of Light throughout the encounter. So let me see first how many were empowered by this talent. How we can see this? We can see when the time the cast happened and the time the cast landed was the same. So here is a prime example of a Flash of Light that was cast uh, with the empowered talent Selfless Healer. Because here, this Flash of Light was instant and healed for 100% more. So I had 1, I had 2, I had 3, I had 4, and I had 5. So we had 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 5 were hard casts. Let's try to understand. This is one of the tips that as a Ret Paladin or any hybrid class, you never should hardcast healing if you are a DPS in a mythic fight, unless this will make you live. Unless this is like crucial for death, health. Unless this is like the last thing you can do not to die, which is usually not the case if the healers are all alive or if you don't mess up. I did an analysis of my healing a couple days ago, and I actually even remember why I cast Flash of Lights. So here we will see at 1 minute and 8 what was happening in the fight. Let's go to the replay. So at 1 minute and 8, light is here. We are on the stop DPS phase, no one is doing damage. And we have a bunch of Walking Dead ads here. So what's happening? I cast Flash of Light here, now. Why? Let's try to understand what happened a few seconds before. Lightfall is... now I see what happened here. I remember now. 1 minute, the... Actually, here is when the Reglid said stop DPS. It's when the Glacial Wrath, the players are marked, they run to the spot here, I am one of them, and then, boom, the spikes will appear. The spikes appear, and we start cleaving the spikes. The spikes lose health crazily fast. 1, 2, 3, 4 explosions. Boom! The entire raid loses health a lot, and the raid lead says stop DPS. So we stop DPS with the explosion. What happened at 40? They're losing health, losing health, losing health. I will stop. Now, they exploded at 44 seconds. That is, 44 seconds of encounter, we had to stop all damage. And Kel'Thuzad has 1 million, 15% health. We stop DPS. And he casts Soul Fracture. So we go kill the tank ads, and no one is doing DPS, but interrupting the tank ads. So here, where it's light, Avenged. Avenged is here. I'm stacking for the Meteor. I take damage from the Meteor. Frost Blast. And then I go here, and I see here, you see? Now I remember clearly, I was soaking the Meteor, and then I said, the raid lead said stop DPS, but I don't wanna. I'm joking. Of course I stopped DPS on Kel'Thuzad, but then I said, I see targets here. Did ads. The Devoted. I will do DPS to the Devoted because I have 88 HD and I don't want to stop doing nothing. I want to do something. So I went there. You see, here I am. Avenged. And I take damage from the Devoted because I was a bad player. What I did is, if you go too close to the Devoted, you cast Relentless Haunt is a fixate. I was here, I had the fixate, but I did not realize this. So what I did is, I went too close and I lost health. Because he casted. This devoted here casted Relentless Haunt on me and it exploded. And you see how I lose health. Here I am. I lost 55% of my health. So what I did is, I think I casted Shield of Vengeance even, if I go back to the logs. And then the Shield of Vengeance exploded and I lose this much of health. If I did not have Shield of Vengeance, maybe I would have died. And I caused damage to the other melees that were close to the Devoted too. Clueway, Steel Rose, Barrier, they all lost health here. And even Beans, I see Beans here. Beans lost health. Where's Beans? Here. Beans almost died. I almost killed Beans. So what I did at 1-8, I came to this corner here and cast Flash of Light. You see my health here? I cast Flash of Light and I recover all my health with this hard cast that I did. But we were on the stop DPS phase, so this is susceptible. You can free cast a healing if you are on the stop DPS phase. So this is my hard cast here. And then I'm pretty sure I used the Shield of Vengeance that I should not have used on 1-8. Let's go back and see what I did on 1-8. 1 minute and 8 seconds. I used Shield of Vengeance on 1-2. Actually, I used Shield of Vengeance before I went to the ads. So I might have had this in mind. I think I planned meleeing them and being protected from the explosion. And this is a bad call because you had two choices. This is one of the negative reviews the player did to me on my log review, which is, as a Ret Paladin, you almost always want to use Shield of Vengeance on pole before the fight starts. And if you are a sneaky Ret Paladin, I think you should even use Blessing of Sacrifice on the tank. It explodes doing damage to the target, so it's like a kind of defensive offensive. So if you use Blessing of Sacrifice on the tank, it will multiply the amount of damage the explosion will do to the target, because it's considering damage the tank receives too. So it's more or less commonplace for Ret Paladins to pop Shield of Vengeance on pole, unless they have a high damage moment in the encounter between the 2 minutes mark, and which is I had the Phylactery at 1:15, and I was saving the Shield of Vengeance for the Phylactery. But what I did is, I was a bad player. And 10 seconds before the Phylactery phase. And this kinda fucked me up because the Phylactery is a trick. What happens in Phylactery is absurd. So, the first healing, let me go back to the Flash of Light, which was the analysis we were doing. The first hardcast wasn't a moment we are allowed to hardcast because it was during a stop DPS moment. The second hardcast started on 3:19, and I did one hardcast following by the second hardcast followed by two hardcasts at 3:19. Let's see what happened on 3:19. 3 minutes. Phylacteries, spikes are losing health. Spikes are about to explode. Spikes go off and 3:10, is it? Yes, they go off at 3:10 and they debuff the entire team massively, and we start losing health from the frozen destruction. You see the raid here? The raid damage is absurd. Look at everyone's health here. Slanks going off, everything's going off. Kel'Thuzad is dead, you see here. Kel'Thuzad is gone. So there's no Kel'Thuzad to attack because he died a split second before. You see, Kel'Thuzad 4%, Kel'Thuzad 1. So when the spikes went off, Kel'Thuzad was dead. The raid received an absurd amount of damage, and I had pretty much nothing to attack because we had like 2 devoted alive, 3 devoted, and they were being cleaved by a warrior here. You see this warrior? I don't even know who he is. His warrior, maybe? This warrior here was blade storming the 3 last ads. We had mage. The mage that was number 1 parse. He was obliterating the ads most of the time. Which is fine, because he has funnel damage. And I was hard casting Flash of Light. So the first one goes, the second one goes, and I top my health. Why I did this? Because we had this team going down. So I had to choose AFK here, because I had nothing else to attack. I had 3 targets to attack, but they were completely trivial targets being nuked by the entire raid. So in my head, I was like this. The entire raid is taking a crazy amount of damage. I have to save globals from the healers, so the healing goes to the people that is going to deflect there, so they can go into deflect there with full health instead of leaving them to heal me and pad on the ads. That was pretty much what happened with this paladin here, who never cast a single healing in this encounter. So that's why I free casted 2 times Flash of Light here. So if the verdict for this hard cast is okay, it's acceptable. The verdict for these 2 hard casts here are also acceptable. Everything was dead. I had 3 ads in front of me, and I chose to heal myself and help my team. So the phylactery team would go down with full health instead of padding on the ads to gain what? 50k more damage in the encounter. And the last hard cast was on 522 and 523. Let's see what happened here on 522 and 523. Pretty sure I was in front of the phylactery casting Flash of Light. Yeah, that's it. So this is when I hard the last time. I'm waiting for the button. The button only pops when Kel'thuzad image appears here. So Kel'thuzad was already dead here, 1%, but he was not here. Just when he jumps here, I can click. So what I did is, Kel'thuzad died, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Kel'thuzad died. I moved here, and then I stopped and hardcast Flash of Light, and then click the button and go. So this is completely acceptable because I was in front of the button inside the green swirly and waiting for a button to appear. I just cast Flash of Light so I could go to the phylactery with full health, you see. I have a friend going down, Consul, and he was not full health. It's his fault. Of course not, he's a bloody hunter. The thing is, the entire raid took damage here from the glacial explosion seconds before. You see everyone with the debuff here? Frozen Destruction? The entire raid is taking Frozen Destruction. Of course, how can a hunter heal himself? I mean, only if he had something safe, but it's not wise to use a health potion to top yourself. Use a health potion to survive. So he did the right thing. He saved his potions and went in the phylactery with 80% health. I decided to heal myself and go into the phylactery with 100% because this thing is a nightmare. So all my Flash of Lights here that we saw were completely justified. All the instant casts were massive for healing because they had a 100% healing increase. They were instant. So here the Flash of Lights were okay. So now one thing doesn't seem right. Why? If I took a talent that empowered Flash of Light, why I cast Word of Glory? This is what we have to see. Okay, let's see. I cast Word of Glory 5 times, and if I took a talent that empowers Flash of Light, I should not cast Word of Glory. And if I'm casting Word of Glory 5 times, I should have taken the talent that empowers Word of Glory. So let's understand when this Word of Glory went. So on 148, I cast the first Word of Glory, and then the second on 2 minutes. Let's see what's happening on 148. I'm pretty sure I was in the phylactery. Yes, I was in the phylactery. The phylactery is pretty tricky because when you start the phylactery like 1 and 15, you click the button, and 118, and we are teleported, and the encounter starts on 120. That's so? Yeah, 120 when the remnant casts Freezing Blast for the first time. 124. Freezing Blast starts. So what happens is, we have 30 seconds here. 35 seconds. There's a dot that scales. So at the first half of the phylactery, there's pretty much 0 damage to anyone that dodges everything. So if you dodge everything in the phylactery, the first 15 seconds the healer can FK. That's a lie, of course. Pretty much he was healing and I was not feeling the damage. That's why I'm saying that. but the damage was minimal nonetheless. But the second half is a truck. It's when you have to pop wings if you're a holy paladin, when you have to do your shaman shenanigans to heal. So what was the strategy I decided to do? Since I had limited time to do damage, and since I was doing too much damage and had to remove wings, I decided to do a two-phase phylactery because Ret Paladin works in a 15, 20 seconds if he has wings. If he doesn't have wings, a Ret Paladin works in a more or less 15 damage window, which on the first 7 seconds we are building holy power because we cast Seraphim and send execution sentence for the last 8 seconds of this window where all the damage happens. So the first 15 seconds of the phylactery, which is the moment the damage is lower to every one of us, I decided to do damage. And the last 15 seconds of phylactery, I was just popping my Shield of Vengeance, which I did not do on the skill log because I messed up and I used it outside when I took damage from the devoted. But for the second 15 seconds of the phylactery, my plan was Shield of Vengeance to shoot myself, and then every finisher I was using Word of Glory. Why? Because I had to do less damage. Because we were doing too much damage. So at some point on the third day of progression, the team was getting uneasy. We were wiping them. We were doing more damage than we should be doing. So I was trying to be clever and think of ways to do less damage. And I came with this good solution, which is divide the 30 seconds of phylactery in first 15 seconds of send all the damage you can, and last 15 seconds of heal yourself and survive the best you can. Why? Because you are doing too much damage. So if you're doing too much damage, use your paladin toolkit to do less damage. And the thing was, first switch to the worst talent, which now I realized was a mistake. I should have communicated with the team. And the second was use finishers to heal yourself, and that's what I did. 48 in 1 and 2 minutes. 2 minutes is when the phylactery ends. I think it's more or less 40 seconds we have. Because that hurts. You guys, you see here, if I leave at the 2 seconds, look at the health we have, the phylactery team. Steel rolls 10% health. Council 10% health. Angel 4% health. If it was for my Word of Glory, I would be just like Engel, which is a DK and has AMS and has many ways to mitigate magic. He almost died because this is a truck. Kel'Thuzad trucks us at the end of Phylactery. So that's why I was using Word of Glory. Why? Because I had to do less damage. Pretty much. And I'm very surprised that this Paladin never healed. Man, he has faith in his healers, huh? Oh my god. Playing with fire. So the thing is, so we saw, we were talking about my Word of Glory usage and trying to figure out why I was using Word of Glory since I had a talent that boosts the other healing. The first two, we saw that they were used for reducing the damage I did for the Remnant because I was killing the raid by doing more damage than I should. It's a bad game design, do less damage. I don't like this. I'm glad Blizzard's moving from it. And I used it again on 554, and I'm pretty sure this was inside the Phylactery again. And this was my mistake. Why? Because I was scared. I was very scared because this was the last Phylactery. We were so close to kill the boss. It less than a minute before the boss died, I got very scared, and I used every single thing I had not to die inside the Phylactery. Because if I lived, that meant a victory. Because let's face the joke. With the damage we have now at the end of the patch, it's a joke. It's brain dead. You just have to kick, interrupt the rivers, which are banshees, and if you do, the, the boss dies in 30 seconds. 30 seconds. So what I did here, we can see. Oh no no no! Where's my bubble? I'm pretty sure I used bubble here. I fucked up big time here because on the last set of spikes, I forgot that I was standing on top of the spikes and I literally got impaled by the spike. You guys will see here that I even move. I moved so far that I almost leave the raid zone. And if you leave the raid zone, you die. So what I did is I bubbled and came back because I had to use a global to bubble when I was in the air because I got hit by the spike. I was saved by the armor kit here. That's for sure. Armor kit saved me here. And then when I started flying, I bubbled. So if I had landed here without bubble, I would die. So I only lived because I used bubble here. So this was a shitty mistake, a very bad mistake. Like saving myself with bubble doesn't justify using bubble. Actually, saving myself with bubble does not justify standing on a turtle and being hit by the glacial spike. So that was the mistake here that left me with less defensives for the third phylactery phase, and then made me heal with Word of Glory on 554, because I went to the Phylactery just with my Shield of Vengeance pretty much. And that's intense, because there's a bunch of one-shot mechanics, that's wins, that push you. That's And then 627 and 634, this is the last phase. This is the phase that you send everything. I think this was a mistake again. I need more experience with the encounter on Mythic, but I was very scared fighting Kel'thuzad here. I was sending everything I could to keep myself alive. You see, I soaked the meteor here, boom, and I look at my health, almost zero, and then I start sending everything to heal myself. And I was scared to die because I did not want to die. I wanted to kill the boss. Look at the boss here, 21%. So you are progressing on a very hard boss, and the tier is almost ending, so you want to kill things before the tier ends. And then, when boss has 20% health, you see yourself in a situation that you have... How much health I had? 10%? When I healed? Let me see. Yes, 10%. Maybe even less. I had 10% when the meteor struck. No, this is less than 10%. This is... I had 4k health. 4k health. Then I was like, what? No, I sent a Word of Glory, and I think I sent even more than Word of Glory. I think I used my instant Flash of Light with the talent, and then I used a Word of Glory to heal back, and then someone healed me. You see here the Word of Glory going? Yes. I think I even used the Flash of Light. Let me see if that's the case. Crusader Strike, Word of Glory. Yeah, I used Word of Glory twice here. Yeah, that's true. That's where we see in the logs. But I want to see if you have Flash of, if I use Flash of Light. Potion. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just the two Word of Glory. Let me go back. So yeah, that kind of justifies more or less my healing usage in the fight and shows some mistakes that has to be addressed. Show that I have to think now for Sylvana's progression is selfless healer versus healing hands. I think the healing hands is very strong, not only for empowering Word of Glory, but I see here, and healing hands also reduces the CD on Leon hands based on how much health I healed. And usually I send Leon hands when I am at when I have nothing. So usually yes, I can reduce to 60% the healing, the CD on Leon hands. So this is something I will consider from the commentary on my logs, because yes, these things should be addressed and should be fixed. But the main difference here between us, I see, is the legendary. He's using Divine Resonance, which gives 3 Divine Tools after you use Divine Toll, and I am using Final... what is it? Final Verdict. The thing with Divine Resonance and Final Verdict is tricky, to say the least. Why? Because the main just too long didn't read. Divine Resonance is stronger in most all situations, uh, but mostly in situations that you are like fighting a patchwork, or that we're fighting things that are pretty. There's no such thing in the current tier, but the targets that are not moving so much. Why? Because you want to send your 8 seconds execution sentence with every single global hitting the target. So you can send the most finishers inside your execution sentence and then send more damage. I lost myself off tables. So the thing is, the final verdict is a ranged finisher that deals more damage than Templar's verdict. Here, I have to go to Wowhead. I think I can go to his casts. Damage them. Oh no, sorry. Casts and Templar's verdict. Let's just compare the tooltips. I mean, you can see here he had how much DPS? 1.8 with Templar's verdict. And I had 1.4 with final verdict. So he had more with his Templar verdict than I had with my final verdict. So this seems that even the final verdict in itself hitting for more, but I think, hold on, I have to see how many casts I had versus how many casts he had. Because if I'm trying to make an average here, it has to be averaged by casts, right? 43 versus 57. Yeah, this is pretty much the same. He had more judgments because he had the legendary, so I had 5 judgments. He had no 36. Where's Vanto? Where's his Lego here then? Oh, he had 2. Hold on, this is quite wrong here. Because one Templar verdict is hitting for 300 the FPS. He has more. What's going on here? And I have Templar verdict too. I don't have this ability. How I have this in my logs? Well, I bet this is the base thing that Warcraft logs uses to differ the one that's buffed by the judgment and the one that is not. So they remove from the log. So here's the final verdict alone, and here is all the final verdict. Here is the difference that the final verdict buffed by judgment had. So you see 300 DPS was the DPS of the finisher buffed by judgment. So we had more or less the same here. I had a little bit more than him. And 36 judgment casts. I want to see where are his other judgment casts. Because we had the same number, 35 versus 36, and he should have had much more because his legendary sends 3 extra judgments with Divine Toll. So I have to go to where's Divine Toll here? Oh, Divine Toll doesn't even show in the logs, because maybe Divine Toll was being considered judgment altogether. I just think this is weird because then we cannot calculate very well how much is worth each legendary comparing both of our logs. Or actually, I cannot read this. I don't know where to look because I cannot see Divine Toll here, and I cannot see the difference in judgments we had. I can maybe infer for his 57 casts empowered by judgment, and I had 29. This is something for later. This I cannot do a very precise math on it. I cannot like compare based on numbers because I'm missing information. I cannot see how much judgments he did with Divine Toll. I cannot even see how many times he used Divine Toll. because then I could infer, I could just multiply by 3 because we have 3 extra judgments if you have the Divine Toll Lego, and it's not even showing here in these logs, Divine Toll, which is very weird, very, very weird. Maybe if I go to casts, I'll see his Divine Toll. Oh, there you go. Boom. Casts. So Divine Toll is not considered a damage ability. It's the judgment that they send is considered. So okay, let's go to casts. I used 6 times Divine Toll, and he used 7 times Divine Toll. Okay, what's the length of the fight? Yeah, pretty much the same. So we have to understand what happened here with the Divine Tolls. Let's see. Let's compare. Okay. He used the... okay, now I know why he used one more. Because he popped his CDs on pool. And I didn't pop my CDs on pool. I popped my CDs when the spikes appeared. Because then I would have more targets to send damage, and then I would have more funnel for Kel'Thuzad. Because what the fantasy of the Ret Paladin spec is having a funnel burst 8 seconds, and then pretty much mediocre damage after this window until the next minute, when he have very strong funnel 8 seconds. So you have to think of the encounter where, as a Ret Paladin, you can bring the most value of your strength. So pretty much find your niche in each encounter. So I was seeing that if I put everything on pole, I might have, like he had, one, but I have to see how much he had, how many seconds he had. He cast Divine Toll for 649, and who died here? He cast on 649. The fight ended on 657. So yes, he had 8 seconds. I think he had his last execution sentence, but I want to see who died here. If it's him, I don't think so. No one died. I mean, no one, not no one. He didn't die because it's on Oxythin. There's nothing in that. So this is something for me to consider too, because when I decided to burst on 40 seconds of fight was because I knew it will be back for Phylactery. You see, I casting here my Divine Toll on Kel'Thuzad with my execution sentence. And the second is because having the 4 glacial spikes and all the walking ads nearby us, I will burst with Divine Storm, have an insane amount of damage. That's something you can see here. If I go to damage done and see my graph. Where's my graph? I had an insane amount of damage in these 8 seconds, you guys see here. And all this insane damage was funneled to Kel'Thuzad. So that means, in the entirety of the fight, there's not one single moment that I did more damage than I did. With a 4k spike here. And maybe we can even compare with all the players in the raid. Maybe just the Boomy had more damage than me during this spike. How can I see it? Valkyane? Yes, Valkyane had 45-ish, 40. Here in between the 60 and 40 is the 50k. This imaginary line here. So Valkyane had like 44k here during the burst. Let me see the mage that was number 1, how much he had during the burst. He had 20k, yes. And let me see myself. So I was number 2 by that moment. Barely. Oh yes, I had the same. Because here would be the 50. So I had 43, 44. So the Boomy and I were doing the most damage we could. And the difference is, I was funneling all this 4k damage on my execution sentence explosion. And you see here how much my execution sentence did. How can I? You see how much damage my execution sentence did to Kel'Thuzad. 64k. So because of this choice of bursting on 30 seconds and therefore losing a last burst in the end was to send the most damage to Kel'Thuzad. But I was not even convinced I could burst in the end, because if we take him into example, I think his choice was better than mine. Where I can find it. Maybe that's why he had more DPS than me and a better burst. It's because damage done. He burst in the end, and then he had a very big burst here with spikes or ads or something. 15k. No, 50k is just one ability. Sorry, Divine Storm. So he had, and in the end he burst again, and this is the most important moment of the fight, because it's when you had to kill the boss. It's when you have to execute the enemy, which is Kel'Thuzad, and if you don't, you wipe. I mean, in every moment of the fight, if you don't kill, you die. But here is the most important one, because you have to kill him ASAP, because it's when meteors are coming, frost paths on the floor, ads you have to interrupt. So I think his choice was much better than mine, because here I compare where the damage is going. Let's compare how much damage he sent to the most and how much damage I sent. Let's see here. Phase 3 final stand and his phase 3 final stand. How much DPS he had? 9k? And I had... No. This is wrong. Oh yes, it's him here. He had 20k DPS on this last phase. All this damage, this 171k damage of Divine Storm was funneled to Kel'Thuzad with execution sentence. So I was about to blame him from padding on the ads in the end, when you have to nuke and pretty much single target Kel'Thuzad, but he was doing his job because he was funneling. He just cast 3 times and he funneled all this absurd amount of damage into the execution sentence that hit Kel'Thuzad for 70k. So yeah, that sums pretty much the main damage-wise execution I could have done to have a better parse and a better performance in Kel'Thuzad is not only this, but the main is cooldown usages. When to use cooldowns. Pretty much when to send shit and when not to send shit. So here I did this, I chose this because obviously I knew that no other moment in the fight I would be able to send that much damage, because simply we had no danger and was able to patchwork and I was able to send everything I had funneling damage to Kel'Thuzad. And here, when actually we have a lot of danger, a lot of problems, he did less damage, of course. He did 20 something, and here I did 40 and something. But then here is the meaningful damage. Here is one of the things I as a player, as someone that plays for many years, I defend as this should be the core of the parse and details. What? Meaningful damage. This should be the emphasis of any rating, any logs, any parts, anything that player can see as like I don't know, something that gives him merit, that makes him feel good, because everyone likes looking at details and looking at logs and see their number one. But I think the number one should not be just raw damage. It should be what this guy here is doing, which is meaningful damage. These should be the core of any metric in World of Warcraft for DPS. Meaningful damage. Damage where it matters. Damage executing your character toolkit with mastery. Having like, this is simply being clean and understanding how your spec works, because he's using everything he can use to make his spec work the most he can, which is funneling on the most important moment. So this is pretty much, it's pretty much it. Of course, we could go in a more in-depth analysis of the legendary difference, and I think maybe in the end, Divine Resonance would come. Let me put here Divine Resonance versus Final Verdict. Maybe Divine Resonance would come slightly ahead. This is something I see on Simulation Craft when I come here and send the simming. Every time I sim here, Divine Resonance is slightly behind. In some situations, more or less with more targets, it's ahead than Final Verdict with a pure single target. And then I sim a lot of different things. I sim high movement, more targets, more time, less time, and the difference is very minor. So of course, my parse here was a 51. Where is it? My parse here was 51 with 9.4k DPS, and his parse was 91. 98. This is the perfect parse. This is why he's one of the best in the world, because considering the stats he have, consider the stats he has, consider the character he has and the spec he has. He was 98% for this high level. He was almost perfect. And he had 11k DPS even going down. And I had 9 point. If I did some things differently, I was expecting I would have like 10k. 10k and 200, 10k and 300. But he had 11k and 800. So that means simply by knowing when to send, that means cooldown usage, choosing the best moments to send cities, makes it so that and here's the thing, he might have talked to his raid leader and with his team members who were going on in the flactere with him, and he was saying, hey, I'm a 2 minutes class, I'll pop on pole and I'll pop everything in the flactere, you should hold. And I did not do this. I did not. I'm new, so I'm trialing. So I was like trying to talk the less I could with the team and with the members. So I did not pass as a very annoying person. So I'm trying to be quiet most of the time. And I decided to choose for my own. And I even chose a bad talent here for my setup, which was a single target setup, because I needed less damage. But I actually to the team and said, hey, who has this? Who works on a 2 minute window? Who can pop here and have it back for 2 minutes, have it back for 4 minutes, and have it back for 6 when it's the burn? Oh, I do. So you and me will burn, and the others hold. And I did not do this. Maybe I should have talked to them, and then instead of taking other talents, I should have taken the best I could and burn when I best I could, and things would be much differently, and I could have had a much better performance here overall and a much higher parse than a 51, which is mediocre to say the least. It's low. It's not what you aim for when you are rating. So here, this verdict, I think, I will not even put as number 7. I put this verdict. Do a better research for cooldown usage in encounter based on the best parses for your eye level. So that's pretty much it. I have to figure out what's the best moment that the best Ret Paladins are using for Sylvanas, Mythic Sylvanas. So I have to come here and go to Mythic Sylvanas ranking and do the same process to see when I have been using my buttons, and also pay attention to seeing which legendary will perform the best, which healing talent will perform the best. This first row here, I don't even have to analyze this for Sylvanas. Maybe, I'm not sure. I might have go Blade of Wrath. I have to see what people are doing for Sylvanas. And something that I have not mentioned here, and that was in the analysis of my log, is that the PvP badge trinket is best. So I should look for it and try to get a friend to get the better trinket, or even buying a carry, because this will be also very important for Sylvanas progression. So this is pretty much the verdict of my combat lock analysis for KT, trying to have a better performance than parse on Sylvanas. Now you analyze the logs on the weekend because I want to see if I know it's tricky to analyze wipe logs, and it will be pretty much for first phase one. So this can be something misleading because on phase one maybe Tempest will be valuable, but I'm not sure if there's any funnel with the chains in Sylvanas. When the arrows come down, you have nowhere to funnel. I could send all my their arrows die took so quickly that I don't even have the 7 seconds to build up to send the execution sentence to Sylvanas and send the damage to the arrows. I'm not sure if that's possible, so maybe Tempest I will try like once or twice, but this legendary is maybe a no-go for Sylvanas at all. So this will be pretty much between Final Verdict and Divine Resonance, and maybe Divine Resonance coming out as number 1, which is usually reflected in the logs, because Divine Resonance is number 1 on pretty much all number 1 logs. So we'll see.